This is my fourth year of covering the NFL draft here on YouTube, and I want to do things a little bit differently. The previous 2 years, I tried to do one video for every single team, handing out grades for every single pick with in-depth analysis, and it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to. The year before last, it took way too long to get done, and last year, because of circumstances that were out of my control, I didn't even get to get done. So instead of doing all that, instead of talking about potentially negative things with the NFL draft, I decided this year I want to go full positivity and just talk about my favorite pick from each NFL team. Now, we're not going to be talking about first rounders in this video because that's way too easy. I could just talk about every first round pick for pretty much every team. There's a couple teams where that would be an exception. But I instead want to talk about the day 2, day 3 guys, really get into the weeds of some of the non-household names that got picked this year, and talk about guys that I'm a really big fan of, guys that I want to see succeed in the league, guys that I think can succeed in the league. And so I figured this was the best way to do that. We're going to go division by division for all 32 teams, 8 videos over the course of the next week or so, talking about, my favorite pick for each team, like I said. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off the AFC by talking about my favorite pick from every team in the AFC North. We're going to kick off the AFC here with Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington, going to the Cleveland Browns. And this one is one I wanted to start with because it is going to show you a little bit of a pattern that's going to show up throughout the AFC picks. If you're someone that is watching all 8 of these videos, first of all, thank you. I love you. You are fantastic and wonderful, and I appreciate the support. But also, number 2, you probably noticed the NFC. We were talking about a lot of those late round gems, those day 3 pickups. In the AFC, that's not necessarily the case. There are some second round picks thrown in, some third round picks, and I don't love that that's the case necessarily. I did initially want to focus on those day 3 picks, but, given the fact that I didn't watch as many players this year, and some of these classes just don't have guys that I was enamored with on day 3, I don't want to come on here and kind of screw a team over by talking about a player for a minute and then be done. I want to give each team their 3 to 4 minutes that I'm shooting for, and I would hate to screw a team out of that. Like Cleveland, for example. If I were to go with the day 3 pick, I'd probably talk about Parker Brailsford, and I'm going to be honest, I don't have, passionate enough thoughts about Parker Brailsford to sit here and talk for 3 to 4 minutes. I would probably say, yeah, he's a good center, could potentially help them move Elgton Jenkins to guard in the long term. Somebody that has upside. He's undersized, but there is appeal there. There is potential there, and that's cool. That's kind of my entire thought process on Parker Brailsford, and I like Brailsford. He just isn't a player I feel I can talk about for a long time. But with Denzel Boston, getting into actually talking about the player here, I could go on and on about his fit with the Browns. Because you take a look at this Cleveland receiver room, the top dogs in this room are now Denzel Boston, Jerry Jeudy, and Casey Conception. Casey Conception and Jerry Jeudy are both guys that, are more undersized. They're not really ball winners. They're route runners. They're guys that find ways to get open, can create separation throughout their route running, and, are just not the same type of receiver as Denzel Boston. They don't have, a true dominant 50-50 ball winner. They have Cedric Tillman, but, he's never really become that for them. That was what he was supposed to be, and here we are. It's just not him. It's not developing into the player that they want him to be. So they say, okay, we need this true X receiver. We're going to take Denzel Boston here at the top of the second round. 6'3", 212 pounds, 32-inch arms. He is a player that I don't think has insanely high theoretical upside, but he doesn't need to. You're not drafting Boston with the hope that he's going to be this bona fide wide receiver 1 that's going to go for 1,400 yards a year, right? I think Casey Conception can be that type of player. But Boston is a lot more of that wide receiver too. He's the guy who goes for about 800 or maybe 900 to 1,000 if it's a really good year for them. And, just shows up, right? Third down, you need 5 yards. You get Denzel Boston on a curl. You have him box out a corner. Or you want a deep ball downfield. You chuck it up to Boston knowing he has a good chance to outmuscle the corner that's guarding him. That's the type of player you're getting here. He's also somebody that's a good run blocker on the boundary, can take corners out of the game as a run blocker, which is a huge win. Cleveland wants to run the football. They've got a good run game going. He is a perfect fit for this receiver room. He's the type of guy they needed. And honestly, I'm hyping up his ability as this big physical 50-50 guy, but also he's a good route runner downfield. He can create separation as a downfield route runner with nuances in his route stems, head fakes, double moves. He can build up speed. He is somebody that can win downfield. He's strong over the middle of the field due to his size and having consistent hands. He can beat press consistently. He works back to the QB on scramble drills, which is a very nice thing to have. And over the last 2 years, he was productive, had 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns combined. he is somebody that I think will step into this room right away, prove to be an effective wide receiver, and honestly, his initial impact might be greater than Casey Conception's depending on how these receivers are used. Now, I do think Conception, again, will be the better receiver in the long term, hence the reason he's the first round pick, but getting Boston in the second, a guy that, I thought would go right around here, is a big win for Cleveland and whoever their quarterback is going to end up being next year and in the future. So I like the receiver room that Cleveland's built a lot with those three guys. I think the depth is good too. So Boston was a perfect pick and definitely my favorite pick that Cleveland made this year. Moving over to the Baltimore Ravens, I now get a chance to talk about one of my favorite players in this entire draft class, and that is Adam Randall, the running back out of Clemson. And the reason I love Randall so much is because of his upside. We're talking about a player who is 22 years old and only has 1 year of experience at the running back position. But within that 1 year, that lone year where he had 800 some yards, 10 touchdowns on 170 carries, he really showed growth. And I was really impressed by how consistent and linear that growth was. Week after week, you'd see him getting a little bit better at letting blocks develop, at finding creases, at just being a patient running back with good vision. A lot of the nuances of the position started to come to him throughout the season. And sure, it didn't result in some hyper-productive season or anything like that, but that growth clearly was enough for Baltimore to want to take a chance on him and was definitely enough for me to think a team should take a chance on him. Now, we are talking about someone who has a pretty lengthy injury history that needs to be addressed right away. Torn ACL, broke both of his hands, he had a stress fracture in one toe, and then also suffered a minor knee injury recently. So that is not great, right? It's not ideal. Being a bigger back at 6'3", 232 pounds with a lengthy injury history is obviously not ideal. But that being said, if you feel that Randall as a non-starter, because let's be real, he's not going to be a starter, you have Derrick Henry. If you feel that Randall can give you enough as your RB2, I really, really like the upside there because he is somebody who is showing signs of developing good vision and patience and the ability to manipulate defenders with his eyes and with his movements. He had like good burst. He had good speed. He's able to pull away from defenses on long runs. Once he gets up to that top speed, he's like a freight train running downhill. He's really strong, obviously, with his frame at 232 pounds. He's really good at absorbing contact. He runs with really good leg drive. He can fall forward for extra yards. He gives you a lot of really intriguing stuff as like this north-south runner. Now, obviously, given how big he is a little stiffer, so he's not somebody that's got a lot of wiggle, but this is going to be a run game that features Derrick Henry. You don't necessarily need the wiggliest running back in the world because, your line is going to know how to block for a bigger, bulkier back. Additionally, the other very exciting thing about Adam Randall, and the thing that makes me excited about him as your potential RB2, is the pass catching. He is a former wide receiver with natural hands, really good like zone IQ and zone awareness to find soft spots. He can line up out wide. He can line up in the slot. He has a very good route tree. He's a horrible mismatch for linebackers. Like, he's going to give you a lot as a pass catcher. Now, granted, because he is a former wide receiver, you don't have that pass blocking background. That is something he did struggle with at Clemson in his 1 year playing running back. So, that needs to improve for him to be a consistent third down guy. But I really do think he can fight for snaps in Baltimore. You take a look at this running back room behind Derrick Henry. Justice Hill did not look like his best self last year. Rasheen Ali has not really done a lot with his limited opportunities. And that leaves Adam Randall. I really do think he can fight and potentially by the end of the year be RB2 in Baltimore. I really do. Now, obviously, this is assuming he stays on his current trajectory and does not get hurt. If he gets hurt, different story. If he suddenly stops developing, different story as well. But the upside, the traits, the speed, the physicality, the pass catching ability, not even really upside, it's already there, makes him really intriguing. And given the addition of Declan Doyle as your new offensive coordinator coming over from the Ben Johnson offense, we know Ben Johnson likes to put guys in advantageous situations, likes to create mismatches with personnel. I really feel the Ravens can do that with Adam Randall, splitting him out into the slot, maybe even out wide, putting him in different spots. You can do a lot of different things with him, and he can prove to be a potential chess piece for your offense. So, and honestly, worst case scenario, if he does not end up an offensive piece, I really do think Randall can be a great kick returner with that speed. He's got experience. He is somebody that, honestly, my comp for him was shades of Cordero Patterson. Like, I do think he has some of that there. Patterson was a similarly built back, started as a receiver, and was obviously a tremendous kick returner. He might be the best kick returner in NFL history, not return man. That is obviously Devin Hester, but purely for kickoffs, Patterson was probably the greatest of all time. And do I think Randall will be that? Probably not, but I do think he could be effective there if he can't get his footing on offense. So I like this pick a lot. I like this player. I'm excited to see what the Ravens and Declan Doyle are going to do with him, and I'm really, really excited to see if he's going to get on the field this upcoming season. And that brings us to the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the lone defender of the video, little spoiler for who I'm going to pick for Pittsburgh, and that is Landon Robinson, the defensive tackle out of Navy. And I understand that this guy is undersized in every sense of the word. 5'11", sub 300 pounds, sub 32-inch arms. He is a tiny little defensive tackle by NFL standards, right? That being said, I don't care. This guy cracked the top 100 on my big board for a reason, and that's because he is one of the smarter and better pure pass rushing defensive tackles in this class. Now, I understand you're not going to be able to have him on the field on early downs. That is just not something you're going to be able to get away with, but that's okay. And honestly, with this landing spot especially, it's very okay. Because you have Dexter Lawrence, who is a nose tackle. You have TJ Slayton, who is a huge defensive tackle. You have Chris Jenkins, who's a good run defender. You have McKinley Jackson, who's a big old defensive tackle. You have plenty of size on the defensive line. You also have Jordan Jefferson, who's almost 320 pounds. Like, you have a big defensive line on the interior, right? A guy like Landon Robinson, who is a little bit closer to like Jonathan Allen in terms of bulk and mass, can survive on this defensive line. He has a role, he has a position, and that is going to be as a designated pass rusher, as a true specialist, somebody who, you know, can win as a pass rusher. We're talking about somebody who is a fantastic athlete for the position, with natural bend, incredibly explosive off the line, super high motor, plays like he can play every snap in a game and not lose even the smallest bit of energy. Obviously, he's not going to be doing that because he's not going to be an every down player, but you get my point. Hypothetically, if he had to, he could do it. He converts speed into power well for a formidable bull rush despite being undersized. He had a really nice spin counter when that bull rush stalled out. He had a shockingly stout anchor thanks to his ability to drop his knee alongside natural leverage, that like corkscrew technique. We saw Byron Murphy come out of Texas a couple years ago, like excel with. Landon Robinson has some of that into his game. And because of that, he can withstand double teams from time to time and even two gap if needed at times. Now, we'll see how that translates to the NFL. Obviously, it was a little bit different down at the collegiate level, especially for a guy playing at a service academy. But, you know, there is at least the technique there. We'll see how that pans out. Now, on the flip side, his pass rushing arsenal is limited as it stands, something that'll need to grow, and I think he is going to a spot with some defensive tackles ahead of him who can be good mentors for him. John Allen is a tremendous veteran defensive tackle mentor for a guy like Landon Robinson. John Allen has a good arsenal of moves and can teach him some of like the hand usage and things like that he needs to work on to potentially develop. And I love that for him. I love that he has that built-in extra coach, somebody who's been there, done that. You know, it's a great thing to have. It's a very, very good thing to have for these rookies to come in and have somebody ahead of them like that. But overall, like, I really do think Landon Robinson as like your third or fourth defensive tackle, somebody that comes in on obvious passing situations and potentially, depending on how his technique holds up against higher levels of competition, maybe even sometimes get in on first, second down. There is also a world where he could bulk up a little bit and, you know, sacrifice a little bit of that athleticism for mass. And if that's the case, then with his natural leverage, if he gets up, you know, past 300 pounds, he could build up some play strength and really become a more well-rounded player. That could be very exciting, but it kind of depends on how Cincinnati wants him to play, what they want to do with him. Maybe they just want to go full in on the athleticism. We'll have to see how that pans out. I know I'm talking big about a 7th round pick, but like, I thought he was a lot better than a 7th round prospect. I understand why he fell, but I had a late round 3, early round 4 grade on him. Had him ahead of some defensive tackles that went ahead of him. Like, I really, really like Landon Robinson and his upside and what I think he can be at the NFL level. I think Cincinnati is a tremendous landing spot for him in terms of the role he'll have to play right away, which is not much of one. You know, he has time to grow and develop and potentially become something as a backup defensive lineman for them to start out. And who knows, if they go the route of having him bulk up and he can become a 3-down player, maybe he could even start for them down the road, because obviously John Allen is not getting any younger. He's on a 1-year deal, I believe, maybe 2, you know, so they could use a guy like Landon Robinson long-term, and I like him a lot. So we'll have to see what happens with him long-term in Cincinnati. I'm very excited for him. I am going to be following him very closely throughout the preseason, because we will get a look at what he looks like against some NFL talent, and that will be a good judge of the strength and the size and things like that. And then beyond that, we'll have to see. So I'm a big fan. I'm really excited about him. And for a 7th round pick, I am way too optimistic about Landon Robinson. And finally, for the AFC North, we've got Eli Heidenreich, the running back / wide receiver out of Navy. And I'm going to be totally honest here. This was my favorite player in the 2026 NFL draft. And I understand that a snipe from a wing T offense at a service academy isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. And to that I say, good, more for me, right? Like, I am buying up all the Eli Heidenreich stock I can. I really do think this guy can be an impactful NFL football player, like a second contract guy that can make a difference for Pittsburgh's offense. We're talking about someone who has dual threat ability as both a pass catcher and as a runner. I've talked time and time again about not really liking comps and not being a huge fan of doing one-to-one player comps, but Eli Heidenreich's shades of that I have written in my notes, I really liked, and that was the concept of the Debo role, because realistically his skill set does lend itself more to being a pass catcher, but I do think he can do a lot of the running back stuff, and judging by Pittsburgh's initial depth chart on our lads, it looks like they also think he's going to be more of a running back. He's listed as a running back for them. And that's not to say that I don't think he can be one by saying I think he is more of a pass catcher. That's just based on what we've seen. He was more productive as a pass catcher. He had more receptions than rushing attempts. But I did like the limited tape we had of him as a true runner. In the few and far between opportunities he had running the ball between the tackles, he showed good vision, he showed good patience. And then to build off of that, because of a limited sample size, when he was used on like toss plays and pitch plays, which is primarily how he ran the ball given the wing T offense at Navy. He did show a lot of patience and good vision, waiting for blocks to develop, finding lanes out in space. And if he can translate that between the tackles consistently, then you're working with something good. And on top of that, athletically, we're talking about a guy who ran a 4.44 40, a lot of fours in there, but you get the point. He is deceptively athletic. And he has like really good build-up speed. He had that home run ability at Navy. Maybe that won't translate as well to the NFL, but again, he ran a 4.44. Like, that's not a bad 40 time at all. He is an athletic player who can beat defenders to the corner, beat them to the edge, win to the outside, and that's really exciting. He's somebody that can get out in space and make plays. He also showed good physicality. He ran behind his pads well, fell forward for extra yards, delivered pop on contact. Like, he is a little bit of a diverse runner, has a tiny little bit of wiggle in there, not something he's going to rely on a ton, but he can plant his foot, make a guy miss, things like that. And that's just as a runner, right? The running side of things is a little more potential-based, a little more upside development-based, just because of the lack of experience at Navy due to the role he played. As a pass catcher, however, there's a ton to like. He had damn near 1,000 yards last year, and I would argue if we're looking at him as a running back, by prospect standards, he has an elite receiving profile. He has strong, soft hands with the ability to pluck the ball away from his frame consistently. He was good in contested catch situations. He was able to reel in one-handed acrobatic catches. He's a really good route runner. He was able to create separation consistently and quickly. He has great feel for space and coverage, like what the defense is trying to throw at him, how to manipulate that, how to get himself open against zone coverages and things like that. He was able to run routes from a multitude of positions, whether it be lined up at running back, out wide, in the slot, at that snipe position, which was kind of close to like an NFL tight end. His ball tracking ability downfield was very, very good. He can be a deep threat for you. So I really do think there is a world where he can be a running back, and there's a world where he can be a very good slot receiver at 6 foot, 199 pounds with that 4.44 speed. Additionally, he was scrappy and willing as a blocker. That did lead people to look at him and say, okay, white guy, Navy, he can block. Fullback? Just want to tell you, want to set the record straight? Absolutely not. He is not a fullback. Pittsburgh told you he's not a fullback by drafting Riley Nowakowski. That is their fullback, who, by the way, was the runner-up for this pick. I love the Nowakowski pick. It reminds me a lot of Connor Hayward, ironically, who just left Pittsburgh, so I thought that pick was perfect. But Eli Heidenreich is either a tailback or a slot receiver with kick return upside. I really do think his skill set with his speed, vision, and patience could translate well to the modern kicking rules. Now, I understand they drafted the kid from Iowa who's like the best kick returner in the country, but it doesn't hurt to have multiple guys back there, right? Now, all of that being said, Heidenreich will only be as good as his development at whatever position they try to put him at. I do think there is a world where he can live in both, but they are going to have to really work with him in the running back stuff, or at least just give him opportunities so he can get those reps in and develop good habits and things like that. So yeah, I really, really like Eli Heidenreich. He's also somebody that can benefit from like those pop passes, manufactured touches, screens, things like that. You get the ball in his hands and he can work. He can be an effective football player. He's a consistent, reliable pass catcher, has good vision. Like, he can be an offensive weapon for Pittsburgh if utilized correctly. And I know people will look at me hyping up a 7th round pick like this and say he might not even make the roster. And honestly, if he doesn't make the roster, Pittsburgh's going to regret it because he's going to go somewhere else and he's going to be an effective part of an offense. And again, be a second contract guy. So yeah, Heidenreich was my favorite player in this class. Like I said, I'm so excited to see how he's going to play this upcoming season. I really hope Pittsburgh gives him the opportunities he deserves. And I'm going to be watching the hell out of Pittsburgh games this year just to see when Heidenreich's going to touch the ball because he's my guy. I am willing to go to bat for this guy. I will go to war for Eli Heidenreich. And I just can't wait to see him playing in the NFL. But anyways, folks, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like down below, as it does help out the channel a ton. It shows your support, it shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. Also, make sure to let me know down in the comments below what your favorite pick was from each of the teams mentioned in this video. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Anything like that, I would love to hear your input down below. And definitely make sure to subscribe for more NFL content coming your way throughout the rest of the offseason. This series is probably going to be the last thing I do about the draft. I might do some assorted film breakdowns here and there. We'll have to see. But either way, there's going to be more football content throughout the summer, into the regular season and beyond that you definitely won't want to miss. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to not miss out on any of it. And above all else, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it. And also, happy Pride Month.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow. Using that